Hello and welcome. So today we are going to talk about using objects and arrays together, which is a very important topic, as you'll see later on when you're writing your own projects, and of course when you're simply writing applications, when you're using code, when you're building solutions. All right, let's jump in. So we want to create an array of objects to represent the following table. Name the array cat party. So we already have defined cat party in here, and we just need to replace null with something. And let's see, the cat named Jello does not have a favorite subreddit, so use null. Okay, so let's look at the table. Looking at the table, we have these cats. We have Maumi again, making another appearance. The Napper, classic Napper. And we have Jarbles, another classic cat name whose job is sleeping. It's great. And Jello. So Jello has a job playing, but does not have a favorite subreddit. So we assume maybe that's because these two have jobs generally related to sleeping, but Jello's more productive. Jello's all about playing, so they don't have time for Reddit. So Jello is going to have no favorite subreddit, and this note at the end is just saying, let's represent that in actual data terms as null. All right, let's just jump into it. So we have a table here, and I mentioned before, one way to think about objects, and it's not a perfect analogy, so it's just one way to think about them, is as rows in a table. Here we have property name, property job, and a property favorite subreddit. And then we have 3 rows in this table, so we are actually going to want 3 objects, and we're going to put those 3 objects in an array. So let's go ahead and do it. How do you create an array? You can go back if you don't remember. Well, we are going to just do it here, square brackets. And now let's put 3 objects in here. How do you create an object? Again, we have lessons on this. Just go back and look if you don't remember. It is with a curly brace. And it's with opening and closing curly brace. The editor is just automatically creating both when I just type one of them. So then we open this up, and let's get to it. We have some properties, name, which is going to be a string, so I'm just going to leave that blank for now. Then we have job, also a string, going to leave it blank, and favorite subreddit, which is going to be a string. And I'm going to leave that blank as well. Although this is a nullable string, as we mentioned up here, it can be null, so you know what, I'm just going to go default it to null. All right. Now that we have this one, this is the general shape. This isn't accurate. If we run this, and it should be an array, and every object should have these properties, so we should get a failing test. Yes, if we don't have this, it's undo. Okay, so we're getting there. We have 2 out of 5 tests, but we need these actual objects in here. So let's do that. We want to save some time, I'm just gonna copy, paste. So now we have these objects. This doesn't look great, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna make that, give us a bit more space here and do some auto formatting, and there we go. So we can run the code, see where we're at. 4 out of 5 passing tests. Let's keep on going. I'm just not gonna worry about that. Let's just keep on going. We want to, so here's our data. Let's see if we can make this both small and visible. All right, so let's just fill this out. Job is napping, and favorite subreddit is empty string there, empty string there, and I'm gonna go ahead and just copy and paste. Same with the second one, copy and paste. And for this one's name, we want Jarbles in second. So in the ordering too, if you're wondering why this order, why Maumi and then Jarbles and then soon to be Jello, that's because we're going with the order that you see in the table. So first is Maumi, second is Jarbles, and third is Jello. And so another analogy here is that you can think of an overall table, not just an individual row, but the whole table itself as an array. So in this case, we have 3 elements in the array, and this is the ordering. They're already ordered. We have the first one, the second one, the third one. So let's keep on going. We have Jarbles, whose job is sleeping. Where's our header row? Job, sleeping. And then we have finally Jello, whose job is playing. And that is it. You now have an array of objects that represents this table. And the reason this is fairly important is that you often are dealing with tabular data in your applications, and they usually won't just have one row. Like we introduced in a previous lesson, you'll usually have multiple rows, or rather your data will have multiple pieces of data in it, and each data can generally be represented as an object. So this is very much like although we're just talking about cats and their jobs, it's a bit silly, but when you're building actual applications, you'll get very similar arrays like this. For instance, I mentioned it before, but let's take a look at this menu here in pairwise, and we have a number of lists of objects here. For instance, we have a list of all the modules, and each module has a list of all the challenges. So this is a list of other objects, and each of those objects has its own list, and it's a whole bunch of data. For instance, we were just going to model that. It would look something like modules is an array of objects, and each object is a challenge. The challenge has, say, a name, or rather, the module. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. A module is an object with a name, and let's just use the simple one. Welcome to pairwise. Welcome to pairwise. Module has a name, and it's in addition to some other properties that our actual data has, but we're just going to simplify and say it has a name and an array of challenges. So here we have another array, a nested array, and this is also going to be an array of objects. And we will say what the first challenge. What's the actual first challenge? If we go look, welcome pairwise, hello pairwise. Okay, so this challenge's name is hello pairwise. Great. And now for some invalid code, we would just have, we would just have copy that. Just have lots and lots of these. This is the actual data is just lots and lots of these different names, and of course different properties, more properties such as the content, or the actual test that we want to run, or the starter code, etc., etc. So in practice, you also end up with a lot of data that looks something like our example here. All right, so that is all for now for this lesson. I will see you in the next.